1937. An ordinary government clerk sits down for his morning meditation, same as he has done every single day for 17 years. Nothing unusual. Same time, same place, same technique. What he does not know is that in the next few minutes, his entire existence will be obliterated. His name was Gopi Krishna. Boring job, 3 children, wife who depended on him. The kind of person you pass on the street without a second glance. But that morning, as he concentrated on the crown of his head, like he had done thousands of times before, something snapped. A sound like a nerve thread breaking, then a roar like a waterfall. Liquid light shot up his spine and exploded in his brain. His own words. I was no longer a small point of awareness confined in a body, but instead was a vast circle of consciousness. Sounds beautiful, right? Here is what nobody tells you about enlightenment without consent. The light faded. He returned to ordinary consciousness. And then the real horror began. The man who had been a devoted family man suddenly felt nothing for his wife and children. Zero emotional connection. Food became repulsive. Sleep became impossible. His body felt like molten metal was flowing through his veins. Every nerve was on fire. For 12 years, this man lived in hell. Now, before you think I am being dramatic, consider this ancient Chinese story. A pottery master was asked to teach an eager student. The student begged for the secret techniques, the advanced methods, the mysterious knowledge that would make him a master overnight. The teacher handed him a lump of clay and said, "First, spend a year learning how this clay feels in your hands. Understand its nature, its possibilities, its limitations. Then we will talk about making pots." The student was furious. He went to another teacher who promised to teach him advanced techniques immediately. Within a week, he was attempting elaborate vases and sculptures. Every piece he made collapsed. His hands had never learned the fundamental relationship with the clay. The first student spent his year with the clay. He learned its moods, its responses, its requirements. When he finally began making pots, they were simple but perfect. His foundation was so solid that advanced techniques came naturally. He had earned the right to work with the clay at higher levels. Your consciousness is infinitely more delicate than clay. Yet modern spiritual culture encourages people to attempt advanced practices without spending time understanding the fundamental nature of their own awareness. They want the mystical experiences without the patient preparation. But wait, am I contradicting myself here? On one hand, I'm telling you consciousness is already perfect, and on the other hand, I'm saying it needs preparation. So which of this is true? Both? And neither at the same time, and this is where most people get confused. Your essence is already enlightened. That part needs no improvement. But your nervous system, your mind, your emotional body, these are the vessels that must be prepared to hold divine energy safely. Think of it this way. The ocean is perfect, but if you want to bring ocean water into your house, you better make sure your plumbing can handle the pressure. Here is where the spiritual marketplace becomes dangerous. Modern teachers promise you cosmic consciousness in a weekend retreat. They claim they can activate your Kundalini with a touch. they have turned sacred technology into consumer products. Ancient practices that were considered dangerous, even for advanced practitioners, are now sold as self-help techniques. The traditional Eastern systems had elaborate safeguards. In Tibetan Buddhism, students spent years in preliminary practices before being given anything remotely dangerous. 9 levels of preparation, physical purification, mental training, philosophical understanding. The secret teachings were secret for a reason. They could devastate unprepared minds. Compare that to today. You can take a weekend course and be teaching others to activate Kundalini. No preparation, no screening, no support system. This is like giving explosives to children and calling it education. And here is the part that makes my blood boil. When students have breakdowns from these practices, guess who gets blamed? The students. They are told they lack faith. They are told their suffering is ego resistance. This is spiritual gaslighting at its worst. The body has wisdom, the psyche has intelligence, the soul has timing. These natural protective systems exist for a reason. They regulate the flow of consciousness to prevent damage to the human system. Overriding them is not spiritual courage. It is spiritual violence. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what about all the people who have positive experiences? Sure, some people benefit from intensive spiritual practices, but we do not evaluate medical treatments based only on the people who survive them. We look at the full spectrum of outcomes, including the casualties. The pharmaceutical industry is required to list side effects, no matter how rare. Spiritual teachers should be held to the same standard. Meditation can cause dissociation and psychotic episodes. Energy work can destabilize the nervous system. Intensive retreats can trigger spiritual emergency. These are not rare occurrences. They are predictable consequences. But here is the irony. The most dangerous teachers are often the ones who seem most powerful, most certain, most willing to push students beyond their comfort zones. They mistake intensity for authenticity. They confuse overwhelming students with transforming them. So how do you approach spiritual development safely? Like learning to drive, you start with the basics. Learn to manage your daily emotional reactions before attempting to commune with cosmic forces. Develop concentration through simple practices before trying advanced meditation techniques. Find teachers who ask about your readiness, not your desire. Who assess your stability, not your enthusiasm. Who have proper training in both spiritual practices and crisis management. Who are more concerned with your safety than their reputation. Most importantly, maintain your discrimination. Spiritual development should enhance your critical thinking, not diminish it. If a teacher discourages questions or claims that doubt is a spiritual obstacle, that is a red flag. Real spiritual authority welcomes honest inquiry. Your goal shouldn't be to have dramatic experiences that make you feel special. The goal is to become someone who can hold whatever consciousness offers with stability, wisdom, and grace. That requires preparation. That requires patience. Consider this. The ocean does not force itself upon the shore. It approaches gradually, respecting the capacity of the land to receive it. When the tide comes in too fast, it destroys rather than nourishes. Your spiritual development should follow the same principle. Gopy Krishna eventually stabilized. After 12 years of integration, he became a consciousness researcher and a warning voice for future generations. His gift to humanity was his absolute honesty about both the ecstasy and the agony of unprepared awakening. True spiritual maturity is knowing when to say yes to expansion and when to say no to experiences that would overwhelm your current capacity. Your consciousness is already perfect. Your essence is already enlightened. The work is not to acquire something new, but to remove the obstacles to recognizing what you already are. And that work proceeds best with your full understanding, your conscious consent, and your active participation in each step of the process. Anything else is not enlightenment. It is assault disguised as awakening.